Essentially deadlift and pause deadlift, and we'll talk a little bit about kind of like my viewpoint of developing glutes. Mechanical load I really think is everything. So like how much weight you lift, or not everything, but it's like a big chunk.
Yeah.
I think reps are really important too, but the problem is you can't, like you don't really, I mean if you've trained a client before, like they don't really feel the glutes until there's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
You know, like so if you got, even on a leg press for example, you lift it, it's like, I feel on my quads, right? 20 reps, and typically 20 rep sets you're not going to feel a ton of glutes unless they know how to use their glutes, but for most people who have very tight hips, they're generally not going to. So what is the glutes here, right? So one thing I like to look at when you're developing the glutes is that from the hip extension, which is basically hip extension, this motion here, right? Yeah. Being able to have a crap is basically coming up like this, pushing the hips through like you're doing a bridge or a squat, deadlift, squat, right? So it's being able to mechanically load these fibers. You gotta remember that the fibers, they run along, they attach right here, right? And they come along like this and come out to the side. So actually I want you, just imagine like your hands like this and it expands out, right? So like that. So where your fingers are, look at your fingers, right? Yeah. That's sort of kind of how the fiber, actually point them down more. That's sort of how they span.
I see.
So when the muscles shorten, where's the leg gonna go? So when these pull, where's it gonna go? This is gonna happen.
Come out to the side. Right,
so when this contracts forcefully, the thing that's gonna happen is the femur, the upper leg bone, is gonna rotate out, all right?
I see.
So there's two things happen, rotate out and extend. So it's two things. Okay. So to understand that, so like, you know, because I always think, you know, a lot of women like trying to develop the shelf, right at the top.
Yeah.
And a big part of being able to develop that, in my viewpoint, is obviously load is important, but being able to get to that spot where you can actually use that tissue, right? Get those fibers to activate the most, and you get that by lifting a ton of weight, you know. So we can face the mirror now.
Not necessarily reverse hypers all the time.
I mean, reverse hypers will be good too. It's just that, again, it's
hard to get load off of.
You just need load. You need load, right? Yeah. I mean, all the stuff that you already do with your clients and the stuff that you know about developing glutes are spot on. It's just mechanical load is scary.
Yeah.
Right? Lifting weights is scary, like a lot of weight. Yeah. So it's sort of understanding that, you know, generally if you can deadlift 300 pounds, you can deadlift 200 pounds 10 times. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean necessarily you have to have a goal of deadlifting 300 pounds, but the development of what doing 200 pounds for 10 reps will do is very high. So essentially, whether you're training for, like me, powerlifting, you have a 1 rep max, right? And you're trying to improve that 1 rep max, or in bodybuilding where you're just trying to get reps and get metabolic fatigue and just really build the muscle up. Yeah. You want to get as much load as you can. So you think about having, like, you know, 100 pound barbell versus a 150 pound barbell for 10 reps, which is going to have a bigger effect. Right. The heavier weight, right? And that's kind of what we're trying to do. So, but before we do that, the one thing I do want to go into is essentially just the pause deadlift, because I find that for a lot of people it's very effective, and you can really feel your glutes. Because a lot of time people who do work deadlifts, they don't really feel a ton in their glutes, not a lot. Yeah. The reason why is they don't have the strength to be able to feel it there, because they don't have the stomach strength, the core strength, the lower back strength, just the everything strength. I see. Because usually the bottleneck on a deadlift is typically not the lower body. The bottleneck is usually your hand grip or it's your back grip. Okay. So we'll do a side view when we do this, but just let me show you what I'm going to have you do. We do a pause deadlift, and we're going to kind of learn how to essentially load our body back. Okay? Because remember, like we want to load this position and then come up. It's kind of like the difference between, I don't know if you can kind of use this analogy. Think of it doing a bicep curl, like so I have a dumbbell, right? And I'm doing a bicep curl like this, and then doing a bicep curl like this. That's the same idea, right? I'm still flexing the bicep full range of motion, but because the dumbbell's here, there really is no load on the tissue. Right. It's really more on my shoulder, right? Yeah. Then we're here, there's actually load on the muscle. So same thing here. So we're trying to get as much load here and work our glutes, because a lot of time in this position, what happens is people can't use their glutes, because what ends up happening is their hips shoot up, and they're using their glutes, but they end up having to use more back than necessary. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the pause deadlift as sort of a way to mitigate that, okay? So simply, one thing to remember is that we want to be able to position ourselves so that we're using leverage. So when we get that, so when we pick this bar off the ground, what I want to see you do is just pause in this position. The problem with this position is there might not be enough weight to pause here very well, but I want you to just try, pause here about 5 count, and then you're going to come up and finish the movement, right? Okay. Although the weight is light, it's very easy, like I just did, to just like not tighten your stomach, you know, let your shoulders round. you want to treat the weight as if it was heavy already, which is not always easy to do, but you got to focus on that. So start off by picking it up off the ground, hold it here, pausing here, and then coming up. And you'll do that, I don't know, 5 times.
Okay. So
then you put it down again, or you'll pause here 5 seconds, or 5 count, come up, okay?
I got it.
Good. So you'll see how her knees are forward when she does it. So just count to 5, then stand all the way up. So 1, and she do that 5 times. Good. And as you pass your knees, I want you to try to focus on contracting your glutes. So that 2 more times. So we're kind of doing a glute activation drill. We're warming up. We're doing a bunch of different things. Okay, 1 more time. All right, very good. Set it down. All right. And can you feel your glutes as you pass your knees?
You know, I feel it at the top.
Then you need to try to start feeling it there.
Okay.
Try. I'm not saying.
I'm wondering if it's because I have a tendency to keep my chest up instead of allowing it to just.
The problem is there's just not enough weight.
Okay.
That's the reason why. Okay. So we're just, before we start adding weight, we're basically warming up. So we'll probably do 5 or 6 sets before we actually do some working sets. No, you're pausing.
Oh yes.
That's fine. And pausing is more of a teaching tool than anything, right? Yep. Come back up.
Oh yeah, I feel it better.
Okay, see now, so there's weight now, right? So yeah, that's what I'm trying to get you to do. Then set it down, and you start over, pick it up, and then repeat. Okay. This is just meant for a standard conventional deadlift, practicing technique and form.
Perfect.
This has other uses, but good. So 2 more times. Set it down completely, start over. Okay, good. 1 more time. All right, good job. So do you feel like your lower back is getting tired at all, or how are you doing?
No.
Okay, then we're good then.
I think if anything, I feel my glutes activating a little bit more, but I also feel it in my hip flexors.
Right. Tighten up your stomach, brace your abs, come down on the bar. Pause, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Squeeze the butt forward, then repeat, down, tighten up.
Okay.
Okay. Good. You can pause a little less since it's heavier. Okay, let's do 1 more. All right, good. Okay, so the one thing that you are doing is you are squatting the weight up. And we don't want to squat the weight up. We want to use more of our glutes. The reason why you're feeling your hip flexors is because you're a little too low. So I want you to start by not starting so low. Okay. So you're actually getting the right idea of what you're supposed to feel. I just want you to start, when the bar breaks are down, I want you to start a little higher. Okay. So when you lift the bar, just let me show you. So when you lift the bar, you're starting and you're doing this, right? And I want you to do this.
My chest needs to be a little bit more forward?
No, just watch. So just, I can't even explain it. You have to see it. So this is what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
I want you to do this. So again, repeat.
The back is deep.
So again, repeat. So about 2 or 3 inches off the ground. And this is what you're doing. So you're moving at the chest first. I'm trying to get you to move at the chest. I'm trying to get you to displace your weight like a seesaw.
Okay.
All right? But let's put a little more weight on there.
Okay.
Because I think that the weight will automatically take care of itself. Because when the weight gets heavy enough, you can't do what you're doing. You know? So that's kind of why I don't give a ton of corrections in the beginning, because until you get... Because essentially you're just, when you're lifting weights generally, whether you do it on purpose or not, you're trying to find the easiest way to lift the weight. You find the path of least resistance automatically. That's why when a client does a really bad push-up, what do? They put their hands out in front of themselves right here, and they push their butt back because they can't do this. Because they're automatically trying to do what you're asking them to do, right? But they don't have the strength to do that, or the skill, or both. Okay. So let's try 3 again. And let's see if we can kind of implement that suggestion. Good job. Much better. And see how it's kind of automatic?
Yeah.
Good. Very good, Breena. So are you really starting to feel your glutes as you pass your... Okay, so that's kind of
It's like clockwork.
So one of the things that's more effective now that what you're doing is that your shin is vertical. It's perpendicular to the ground. So before you would pick up like this with the knee in front of the bar. So it's almost like you're going around it.
Yeah.
And when you teach clients deadlifts, that's probably what they feel like sometimes. They feel like they're going around their knees. And really what it should be, you should be going straight up. Right.
Yeah.
You know, but if you notice, like even with a ton of weight, you know, there's really no movement in my upper body yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when I prep for the bar, that's what when I lift like a lot of weight, I prep like that. So I come down, I get to the bar, but then there's so much weight on there, it doesn't move. But I'm setting up like that before pulling.
That makes sense.
Okay, so that's another kind of bad habit. I don't know if I want to, is that when people are lifting a weight that's not heavy enough, they'll just do this. You know, it's too light.
Yeah.
And because it's too light, when the weight gets heavier, it will start to tip them forward. So then it'll sort of look like, because the weight is because it's too light. So they need to learn how to, so I think we're warmed up pretty good now, so we can work up to sort of a heavier weight. Yep. The one thing you have to do when you pick up the bar off the ground is you really have to get focused on squeezing the bar harder and tightening your abs harder, like a lot harder, like from the beginning. So that way, when you get to the bar, it doesn't wear you out too quickly, okay? Because when you're really heightened up, it's not heavy, okay? So let's go put some weight on there. Okay, good job. Repeat. You can pause a little shorter.
Okay.
Just make sure you have a definite stop. There's no count anymore.
Okay.
Because we're gonna go up in weight. So remember, shift that butt back. There you go. That's what I want to see. Much better. You can feel that one, right?
Yeah.
So repeat that again. That was great.
Like
Better than the first. Way better than the first one. Good job. So the second one was the best, right? I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah.
Right? Why was that? Because you actually shifted your hips back first, right?
Yeah.
And when you shift your hips back first, you're displacing your weight back, and then you're engaging your hamstring and glutes first. When you're a little forward, you engage your quads and a little bit of your lower back first. You know, it's a very small nuance. It's a difference between it's basically the difference between let's get the bar right. There's between this, and then this. You gotta push way back, way back. You gotta. It's almost like you're losing balance. But if you would let go of the bar, you would fall.
Got it.
That's what it should feel like. Oh, pausing way too long. Just short pause, okay? Short pause. That's
funny, like, always slow and everything's acting, so my hands get a little tight.
Oh, do they? Oh, okay, good, good.
I feel it around my glutes. I'm like, hey, we're activating.
There you go. That's better. And repeat.
Yeah, that felt better.
One more time. That was great. Remember, squeeze the crap out of the bar. There you go. Good job. That was awesome. You feeling that, right?
Dude, that's so different.
So now you see how we're really loading your glutes, like a ton. We're loading them a ton, lots. And we're only doing like 2 or 3 reps. We're not even doing a ton of like what would appear like a lot of work. It doesn't appear like a lot of work because you're not doing like 20, 30 reps. We're not doing 5 sets. We're just really trying to get the right position so we can activate the right muscles and we get the most out of the bar. The one thing I kind of want you to sort of think about when you lift is, I don't know, I think you're doing great. I don't think there's really anything I want to add right now until we start to really get close to failure. You know, I think that this is the tough part. The tough part is just realizing that you got to get tight.
Yeah.
You got to get tighter. Like that's all.
It's hard keeping the abs braced and like as hard as you're supposed to do it.
It's more, you have to use you can't, it's like if you try to lift something light above your head, you really can't lift it that fast or you can't lift it that heavy because because there's no reinforcement. Here, probably this way or probably this way or the next weight we do, you should be able to get the weight and you should be able to just sit back like this. I'm sitting back on it right now. If I let go, I'm gonna fall. Okay, so that's how you should start.
The weight is what's keeping you from falling.
That's how you should start. So I'm here, I'm balanced on myself, I'm balancing my body, I'm balanced with my body, right? I grab the bar, then I start to shift my weight, and then from here I pull. Or not pull, I push with my legs.
Yeah.
Okay? The thing is sometimes is that when you get out of position, you'll push, you'll try to deadlift the weight, you try to pick it up. Yeah. And it shouldn't be picking it up, it should be like that second repetition, it didn't really feel like you were picking it up.
No.
You just felt like you're pushing through the ground.
Yeah.
And that is very difficult to explain to somebody. That's something that you can only feel that. And you only get that from experience.
And that's definitely the first time that I felt it. I mean, the last seminar that I attended with you, I really learned how to make sure I try to keep my spine in alignment was a big problem that I had. So I feel like I'm getting better, but this second edition, now that I know how to load properly, I feel like there's more gains that I can take off the table now that I can absorb.
Just push this in, it looks great. Okay, so let's add a 10 on.
Okay.
And remember, you're just pausing, okay?
Yeah.
So here's the trick here. With this weight, gotta be really focused.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta stay tight, and you can't really think about the weight, and you can't think about how you're gonna lift it.
Okay.
You just try to, no, you're just gonna have to do what we've just been doing and have it carry forward. Because if you start thinking of exactly how you're gonna lift the weight, it'll mess with your head. So you just focus on doing exactly what you did, you stay tight, and then you commit to the lift, all right? Don't have anything else. There should be nothing else you should be thinking about other than doing exactly what you just did. You know, it shouldn't be about, you know, if it's heavy or this is hard or if I'm gonna do this right, you know, none of that. There should be nothing else other than positioning yourself in the right spot and then just having the warm-ups carry on seamlessly to this weight, okay?
Okay.
Nice, good job. Breath in tight, squeeze the bar, looking good. Now that was easier, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Get it again, because you're focused now. Focused, good job. Nice, good work. Awesome.
Never felt so much.
But you feel your glutes though, right?
I do. But for me, focusing on really trying to keep it tight, oh man, I felt like I got punched in the stomach.
Right. That was fantastic. So I'm glad that you're really getting it now.
Yeah.
So that was really good, especially your second one, you know? So it's almost like the first one, you're like, I'm off. Second one, you get dead on. And then third, you're like a little off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And why is that? Because again, there's a lot of small things that you're doing that you don't realize that you're doing. You know, you're trying to correct yourself.
Right.
You know, so you're actually learning how to find your best position, but you can't do that. Like when the weight's this heavy for you, you can't think like that. You just got to do it, right? So there's can't be any hesitation.
So I've been messing up on
I mean, you do want to think of it like that, but then when you're actually on the working set, it'll mess with you more. In my opinion, it'll negatively impact it more than anything.
Oh, I agree. I feel it a lot more in my back when I was trying to go heavy. I was like at 185, and as much as I'm trying to get it in my glutes, I was feeling it very much so in my back more.
Right.
So that's how I knew I wasn't sitting back far enough, like you were talking about, and I wasn't keeping my abs as tight as I should. Now that I know what it feels like, it's going to be a lot easier.
So the one thing to kind of remember when you're lifting the weight is, this is probably the heaviest we'll go today. Okay. But what we want to try to do is you want to bring your body into the bar.
Okay, keep it close to you.
Kind of like that's close to the bar. I mean, you're already doing that. It's really more that you want to focus on bringing your hips to the bar. And the best way I can really explain this is that it's a pull that starts off. You just have to, how to explain this? Sorry, I'm all over the place. But you want to, when you're close to the bar, right, you want to be able to pull in. Like, you know how before you were sort of doing this, right?
Yeah.
You want to do that, but at the bottom.
Oh.
Okay? You want to do that, but
start with that.
You want to try to stay there, because when the weight gets heavy, what's going to happen? Your upper back's going to round, which is not a big deal. It's just your lower back we care about. So we want to make sure that we are staying tight throughout. We're staying stomach tight. So when we pick up the weight, you know, if you really focus. So like, probably I want you to look at this. Probably, because my lower body, you kind of see that already. But take a look at my shoulder and maybe my lat here, okay?
I saw that little pull, that little adjustment.
That's better. There's really no movement.
Okay,
that's the thing. That was the first. The first one was off. The second one, there's no movement.
Yeah.
You know, so that's more of what you want, because that way, when you get to the bar,
that's why it doesn't feel like anything. If everything is compact and tight,
exactly,
it's just that much easier as opposed to having a little break.
Yeah. So I want you. So in a sense, you're not the biggest challenge with deadlifts and the nervousness of the weight is that you just have to you push through your legs, you stay tight, you commit to the lift.
Yeah.
Because there's really nothing else you can do. I really know that you can lift this with less than the technique that we did, but I know that you can do this. So I know you can lift probably. What was your best deadlift?
185.
So you can probably do.
No, it was 220.
So
it was a horrible 220.
So that's what I mean. So I know you can do 220. So this is much less than that. So I'm pretty sure that you're going to be able to lift this slower and tighter, okay, to get the most leverage, all right? Because we're not trying to max out. We're just trying to get the technique and feel it.
Yeah.
All right, and then we're going to do a back off set after this.
Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead. Just pull yourself down. Push your hips that way, right? Get your body back. Brace your abs firmly. Squeeze the bar. Nothing should be on your mind. Good job. Nice. Good. Now sit down a little bit more. Good job. Woo. That was tough.
That was like, slow. Like, do I have it? Am I moving?
That's good. That's exactly what it should feel like. It should feel like, when I lift the heaviest weight, like I missed 573 a few months ago here working out, right? And I missed it. I thought it wasn't even off the ground. I thought I was like right. I have no idea. I had no idea where I was.
It feels weird.
So during that moment that you were grinding, it's called grinding the weight, is when people get scared. And then they panic. You know, not a lot of people can do that, especially people that you train. They panic. And what do they do when they panic? They drop the bar, which is not always a bad thing, but they lose their tightness. They freak out. They just freak out.
Yeah,
You know. So the thing is, you're not gonna get anything from freaking out, right? The only reason why you'll bail is because if you felt yourself begin the round or the bar actually stopped, you know, like, so now you know that when you see someone lift a weight and it stops, that is an eternity. So like you see some guys, with that one guy that squats, you see him, like the bar like almost stops. It is freaking crazy. You know what I mean?
That's incredible.
So this is kind of sort of a style of working up and working down. So part of this is, so this is 195 I think? This is 195. Okay, we're gonna start with a pause deadlift, all right? And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into RDL.
Okay.
All right? Just so you know, like just to mention the previous set that you did was fantastic. You pushed yourself. That was the crazy thing about that is that the bar kept getting in front of you. I don't know if you felt that. Okay, well the bar was getting, when you see the video later, you'll see the bar get in front of you, and that's why the bar moved so slow.
Ah, I didn't.
You know?
Okay.
The bar moved so slow because it was getting in front of you.
It was so weird. I've never felt that before, but it feels great though. It's like I don't have to do, you know, a crazy amount of breath. I'm out of breath. My glutes are activated. Like I feel like.
We still want that though. That a lot of reps to get the feeling you still want that, but you want to do that at a higher weight.
Right.
That's really what
this is
we're.
like the baby steps, and then just working
exactly.
my way up.
Feel that right spot and position, right?
Okay.
You feel that. You'll feel your butt there. Tighten up and squeeze that glute forward. Okay. And then you're gonna come down to the right spot without touching the ground. All right. So staying tight, tighten stomach, right? And then you're gonna almost let the bar slide a little bit, not too much. Get past your knees here. Squeeze your butt forward and then down. Almost slide the bar on your shins. This is a great bar because it doesn't have any knurling on right there. So you can kind of squeeze that butt forward. So as you get to here, right, you're going to squeeze your butt forward, have it just graze your knees. So obviously you can't do this, right? You have to
stay upright.
You have to stay tight, right? This is what happens with a lot of people too. I see it in a lot of people when they deadlift. They'll pick the weight up, they'll get to here, and they get loose. You know?
Stay tight the whole time.
They're like loosey-goosey. And then they start to get tight.
Yeah.
When there's a lot of weight on the bar, it's almost impossible to get retightened.
Yeah.
Because you're inflating your body up, you're tight, and then if you lose a little bit, you're going to sink further. Yeah. So you have to stay rigid throughout. Okay. The only thing is that once you get to here, you're tight. You're probably not as tight as when you get off the ground, but then you retighten as you lower. All right? So just keep that in mind. So shoulders back, tight stomach, breathe shallow. And really squeeze those glutes as you pass your knees. Nice. Okay, and then go down just barely touching the ground, coming up, tight, tight stomach, up one, squeeze the glutes forward, good, again repeat, butt back, butt back, butt back, squeeze forward, two, good, there you go, again, tight, 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 three, good, tight, 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 good, awesome, two more, tight, 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 good, one more. Just roll those hips forward, squeeze those glutes tight. Awesome. Good job. Whew. So what you feel there? How'd that feel?
I definitely felt the load. Hard to stay tight.
Right.
Still something I got to work on. But I did notice that I got a chance to reset. When I came down, I felt like I could get tight again and come up. It was too hard to try to tighten.
So you really felt that working?
Oh, yeah.
So you felt that a ton, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll finish. We'll take a break. We'll finish up with one more set. All right. Okay. A big part of the reason why you're feeling it more because there's just more weight. Yeah. So you need to have more weight on the bar. But like with anything else, you have to build the skill for it. That way you don't get hurt. I mean, if you get hurt, it's gonna be very minor. But you notice that like when you guys mentioned about like does your back ever get sore? My back rarely gets sore when I deadlift unless I lose form. Yeah. You know. So why will your back get sore? It was because you're getting too much of sort of this kind of a little bit up and down movement, flexing and extending during the motion.
Instead of
staying rigid, right?
Got you.
You know what I mean? And as you know, like especially when we went up heavier, not necessarily this side, but the weight before that, right? You were just so focused, right? How focused you were. Yeah. And that's like one of the things I try to teach clients is that like I say, pain is distracting, right? It's like pain is distracting, but then they're just not focused on the exercise. They're not because it's very hard to get clients to stay focused because that's really what it is. And a lot of the time when they do get focused, it's because they're scared because the weight is really, really heavy. You know, when you unrack a certain amount of weight, you're going to pay attention. But when there's like, small amount of weight, there's no consequence. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's almost like, you know how when you teach a client for the first time, tighten their core, tighten their core, tighten their core, have perfect posture and form, they got it, but then what happens to us or people who are a little bit more advanced, they get lazy, right? They don't pay attention to keeping their stomach tight. They don't pay attention. Or they treat the warm-up sets like, that's kind of why when you see me train, sometimes I'm just so focused, even with the light weights, because I'm working up to something that is going to scare the shit out of me, or is going to distract me, or is going to make me really nervous, so that when I get there, it's like no consequence. Like I just get up there, I don't even know it's there, right? Because I've already kind of prepped myself, because the amount of weight on there is already sort of a mind fuck.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's interesting that you say that, because I really wasn't even paying attention to how much weight you had on. I was just doing what you were telling me to do. And I think, had I normally do what I usually do, which is, how much is that? Like after, before, being ready to do every one, it's like you psych yourself out automatically, you know? And that's what happens to a lot of people. They let the weight get to them. Yeah. You know, so, because remember, your body doesn't really know how much you can lift. You know, it doesn't. The muscles don't know weight. They don't know. They just do what they're supposed to do, or they don't. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, so we'll do max reps here. Maybe start with a pause deadlift and then do 6 to 10 reps, or until you can't do any more. I think you can get 10, but we'll see how you do. Nice, good. Just hammer them out. Squeeze tight as you pass the knees, up. So stomach tight, tight, squeeze the glutes forward, good. Almost like you're sliding the bar up your thigh when you come up. Slide the bar up your thigh. There you go. Almost like that. Perfect. Keep going. You're doing good. Tight, 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 tight. There you go. Now you're getting it. That's what I'm talking about right there. Tight, tight, tight. Now push those knees out just a little bit as you go down. And back up. Squeeze. Good. And just go to your limit. You're doing good, Sabrina. Push through. Tight, tight, tight. Squeeze the glutes forward. Doing good, doing good. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Awesome. 1 or 2 more. Come on, you got it in you. Let's go. Squeeze. There you go. Ah, there you go. Killing it. Good stuff. Way to push. Push and squeeze. There you go. I just feel it just like getting more and more tight. I'm like, oh man, what's happening back there? So I'm just curious, where are you feeling? Are you feeling more at the top or the side? Or just kind of more here.
Okay, that's fine.
Here's where I'm feeling it. Woo! I'm like cold sweat right now.
So that was awesome. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Freaking kick butt.
Dude.
So I mean, so a big part. So why you feel? Just think about it like this. You know, I want to do the video editing. I'll have an anatomy chart come up. Yeah. But why are you feeling it there? Because that is the origin of the glutes. So they originate here and they come across here. So they are.
Like you talked about from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. So then they're pulling. So that's kind of why I told you to push your knees. I don't know if you felt the difference.
Sitting back more.
Exactly.
And that's what's making it tight and active. I can feel it just by sitting like this. I already feel it like on fire.
I don't know if you know it, because it was just just a moment ago. But like how I told you to push it above your knees a little bit. Yeah. That was just really keeping the bar closer to your body, because it was getting out in front of you. And it'll make your lower back more tired. Yeah. And you won't get as much work done. No, I felt like I got extra breath when I was able to keep it this way. Yes. Because I could feel myself losing it a little bit, but when you made that correction, I was able to push out more. Like in my head, I was like, I only got 3 more. But then after that, I was like, oh, I can keep going. So exactly. I can keep going. Yeah, because what happened was, as you did more and more reps, the bar kept getting further and farther of you. So when you got to here, I mean, you are working crazy. Like you have 135 pounds on here. You do almost like a 135-pound plank. You know, when the bar is that far. When you bring it here, I mean, you're okay, you're great. Yeah. You know, and then now you're just working your butt. Your body's rigid, right? The problem people have trouble with is because they have so much the bad flexibility. They can't get their hips back. So since they can't go back, they have to go forward. So they end up here, which is what makes it. Work their back more. Yeah. I mean, work it more, but they'll feel it. And that's kind of why you want to be able to just stay as rigid as you can. Because the biggest mistake is that when they go down, their back will flex, and then as they go up, their back will extend. And in a previous seminar that we did before, what you were doing is just you were too much initiating extension. Yes, I was. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that you want to do that under tightness. Because if you're tight, you're not going to see. You can't go back that far. I remember that example. I use it all the time. And then you relax, and you're like, oh wow, I can turn into a bridge, right? But then when you're tight, you can't, right?
Move